Nobody could have imagined this just 3 days ago. Right now, we are witnessing the worst phase of UK-US relations in the last 200 years. Why has Starmer been labelled an illegitimate liar? And why does Trump practically consider British PM a traitor?
The special relationship is dead, isn't it? Keir Starmer and his Labour government have completely killed it.
They ruin relationships. It's a shame. It's that country, UK, and I love that country. I love it. But the UK, what they're doing with energy and what they're doing with immigration is horrible.
Right in the White House, US President hinted Britain's migrant policy will kill the country from within. Instantly, the parliamentary opposition backed Trump's attack. Up to 1,000 illegal migrants arrive on small boats daily on the shores of England. And what is the worst part? African new arrivals without any passports are virtually impossible to deport. Starmer explains, mass deportations are inhumane and absolutely intolerant. But then, everything got 5 times worse.
And then right after the war essentially ended, meaning they were obliterated, he said, I would like to send the aircraft carriers. I said, I don't need them after the war has ended and won. I need it before the war. So I was very upset I was not happy with the UK.
I was not happy with the UK. Trump is now directly criticising Starmer's government. What are the exact reasons? In the Middle East war, the British Prime Minister tried to sit on 2 stools. The opposition states, in the beginning, Starmer refused to help the US, but at the end of the war, he offered to send a Royal Navy. Because of this, Starmer ends up pleasing no one. More than 70% of the population no longer supports him. Immediately after this, analysts noticed that Donald Trump respects the leader of the Reform UK Party far more than the actual Prime Minister.
The leader of the UK Reform Party, who, by the way, did really well in that last election. I've been his friend for a long time, and I wasn't sure, am I supposed to be his friend or not? But it never mattered to me if he did well or not. I always liked him, but it's easier to like him when he got the kind of votes he got. He really took it by storm, and they say he's going to do even better this time. Nigel Farage. Where is Nigel?
Right on live, US President effectively backed the British leader's main rival. And this is no accident. In the eyes of Donald Trump's team, Starmer is practically an ideological enemy. Unlike Trump, the British leader rejects mass deportations and has been labelled a leftist obsessed with multiculturalism. At the same time, opposition leader Farage just moments ago decisively won the local elections in the UK. While more than 70% of the population have turned against Starmer, over 5.5 million citizens have already voted for Farage's party. But following the next exposure, experts began calculating exactly how much time Starmer has left. 14 days or a month. The fact is, the world's richest man, Elon Musk, has entered the conflict. He launched a public attack. Britain's fascist government is jailing citizens for an online opinion. Now, under Starmer, up to 12,000 Britons a year are arrested for posts on Twitter and Facebook. Just think about it. That is a new arrest once every 40 minutes. Keir Starmer defends the policy. British online restrictions only ensure the safety of citizens on the internet. Instantly, opposition leader Farage calls this a manipulation. Presenting the statistics, he accuses the Prime Minister of a 2-tier policy. Why did a British mother get 3 years in prison for a single post on Twitter? Critics state that parents can no longer speak out even if their child fell victim to a machete attack. What Starmer labels as inciting hatred against minorities, the parents of the victims call a protest against the import of criminals into Britain. The scale of public outrage has now reached a critical tipping point across the United Kingdom. Driven by deep national frustration, hundreds of thousands of British citizens have taken to the streets in recent weeks to voice their anger. From the hubs of Manchester to the heart of government in London, mass demonstrations are actively demanding immediate general elections and Prime Minister's resignation. Analysts report that Donald Trump views Starmer as his absolute political antithesis on the global stage. This fundamental ideological chasm leads experts to conclude that the White House is actively waiting for Starmer's swift political demise. A closer look at the raw data reveals a massive divergence in how both nations manage their state sovereignty. Within a single calendar year, the United States executed the deportation of up to 2.5 million illegals in general. Simultaneously, Washington heavily fortified its borders to completely shut down unlawful crossings. While American enforcement maintains a relentless 24/7 operation through specialized ICE units, the UK faces an entirely different reality. On the British shoreline, a continuous influx of up to 1,000 young men lands on small boats every single day. Officials inside the White House have reportedly expressed shock at the passive conduct of the British border force under Starmer's command. Instead of intercepting and turning back these unauthorized vessels, UK personnel are routinely observed escorting them safely to British ports. Parliamentary opposition figures have fiercely condemned this approach, revealing that thousands of undocumented individuals are being housed in premium accommodations. Over hundreds commercial hotels across England have been completely requisitioned to shelter these new arrivals. The financial burden of this policy is rapidly draining the state treasury, costing British taxpayers up to £8 million every 24 hours. This massive daily expenditure goes directly toward funding comprehensive social benefits and housing maintenance. The state-sponsored packages ensure that every arrival receives guaranteed weekly stipends alongside full hospitality services. Once elite hotels now provide free structured meals a day and complimentary high-speed internet access at public expense. Historically, these vibrant hospitality establishments generated significant revenue by attracting high-spending tourists from Texas and New York. Under the current administration strategy, those same venues are fully subsidized to house migrants from Africa and the Middle East. Local residents have flooded online forums to report a catastrophic decline in neighborhood safety and social cohesion. Community data in Twitter, shared by neighborhood watch groups, points to a sharp 3- to 4-fold spike in localized crime rates near these designated hotels. The geopolitical friction has intensified significantly following the exposure of these compromising internal figures. In response to the growing data, Trump's strategic team is rapidly shifting from passive disapproval to explicit warnings aimed directly at London. The White House has made it clear that a failure to restructure British border management could trigger a fundamental reassessment of the UK's standing within the NATO alliance. The American president has repeatedly emphasized that Washington will not forget how Starmer's administration hesitated during a critical period of international conflict. This strategic pressure is further exacerbated by the ongoing dispute over the sovereign control of the Chagos Islands and its vital military bases. Inside the Pentagon, the Prime Minister's plan to hand over this strategic ocean territory is viewed as a reckless dismantling of Western maritime dominance. Senior US defense officials openly characterized the proposed transfer as a short-sighted concession designed purely to please so-called liberal voters. This territorial dispute has helped push transatlantic diplomacy to its lowest and most volatile point in a generation. In light of this profound diplomatic breakdown, Washington has already drafted a comprehensive package of punitive economic measures against the United Kingdom. Analysts confirm that the proposed trade penalties include a baseline universal tariff of 10% on all incoming British goods. Furthermore, targeted penalty tariffs of 25% are being prepared for iconic British manufactured exports, focusing heavily on premium automotive brands like Range Rover. The export of traditional British spirits, including Scotch whisky, is also slated for severe tariff hikes under the new White House schedule. Strategic metal industries would face immediate disruption as the penalty measures extend directly to British steel and aluminum shipments. Financial models operating within the Treasury suggest these combined measures would instantly drain between £12 billion and £15 billion from the UK economy. Economists widely agree that this massive financial blow is a direct consequence of Starmer's rigid and unyielding policy choices. Historically, the United States has never leveled such a severe economic ultimatum against its closest European ally at any point in the last century. The expanding disparity between the governing doctrines of Donald Trump and Keir Starmer is nowhere more evident than in the escalating domestic security crisis paralyzing British municipalities. Official government databases indicate that the United Kingdom now logs up to 50,000 recorded stabbing incidents on an annual basis. From the boroughs of East London to the neighbourhoods of South Birmingham, organised syndicates armed with machetes and zombie knives maintain a 24/7 presence on the streets. Parliamentary opposition leader Nigel Farage has fiercely criticised this breakdown of law and order, highlighting the complete vulnerability of ordinary citizens under current legislation. He notes that if a violent criminal targets an innocent woman in a public space, the victim has zero legal avenues for self-defence. Current British statutes provide no right to carry any protective items whatsoever, rendering even basic defensive tools completely unlawful for civilian possession. Reports coming out of Washington suggest that senior American policymakers have expressed absolute disbelief at the restrictive nature of Starmer's judicial system. The complete prohibition of non-lethal deterrents like pepper spray for personal protection is viewed by US officials as a systemic failure to protect the populace. Donald Trump's key political ally, J.D. Vance, has publicly intervened in the debate, linking the historic surge in urban violence directly to unchecked border crossings. He asserts that the geometric rise in violent crime across prominent British zip codes is explicitly correlated with the massive influx of undocumented men. Furthermore, opposition researchers argue that the official figure of 50,000 blade offences represents merely the tip of a much larger crisis. Independent data models indicate that due to severe underreporting and the fear of community retaliation, the true metric of street violence is 3 to 4 times higher than Whitehall admits. A parallel crisis has simultaneously emerged within the domain of specialized sexual offenses and predatory gang activity. Individuals who face immediate, aggressive deportation under the strict enforcement mechanics of the United States are routinely permitted to remain active inside the UK. Investigative journalists have repeatedly highlighted the unchecked operation of sophisticated grooming syndicates operating across multiple English counties. Internal law enforcement dossiers, heavily cited by independent media, reveal that these illicit networks are overwhelmingly dominated by specific foreign nationalities. Leaked internal statistics confirm that individuals from some specific demographics commit violent and predatory offences at a rate 13 to 14 times higher than the national average. Prominent criminologists are increasingly pointing out that the vast majority of high-profile mache assaults in major urban centres are committed by non-native perpetrators. This grim reality has added immense fuel to the public perception that Starmer's administration has completely abandoned its core duty to guarantee public safety. Nigel Farage warns, the refusal of the Home Office to publish detailed demographic breakdowns of violent offenders is being framed by critics as a deliberate cover-up to protect multicultural dogmas. As the data continues to leak into the public domain, the institutional credibility of the justice system is evaporating in real time. The resulting atmospheric dread has transformed once thriving British high streets into nocturnal no-go zones for families and tourists alike.